Hi, my name's Steven Schumann, and today I'm going to be breaking down a song that I was a part of arranging and sort of producing and doing a lot of session work on. This song comes from my band Cypress's first album, First Fruits, and so it's a little bit more involved than some of the other examples that I'll be putting up where I was just strictly a session player. When we first went into the studio to record this, we sat down and we tried to track it live because we're a folk band and it's a trio. And it always sounds great live, but it just wasn't working for the recorded context. My goal here was to create something that was organic and still human, but at the same time, you want it to be full and a studio sound. Now, I'm not in my studio today. I'm on a vacation of sorts, so you might hear a little bit of background noise, but I recorded all of this at home, and I did the bass, guitar, backup vocals, and cello for this. So let's jump into it.
To my knees gets me fired up, you get me fired up. The way your hair seems to shimmer in the moon gets me hotter than the summer sun in June. Gets me fired up, you get me fired up.
I lay out on the cellos and then I sort of sneak in, and then you've got these little like stab sort of things going on here. And if you notice, one thing I did is I double tracked everything and then I have it panned left and right here. So like each voice, cello 1, cello 1, cello 2, cello 2 is panned right or left. And so that gives it a wider sound, but it also gives it a sort of cinematic sound. So basically, if each voice is double or triple tracked, I usually just do double, it makes it sound more like a section as opposed to hearing each individual voice. Now, that can make it muddier and it can make it fuller. So it kind of depends. This is a pretty sparse instrumentation, so I felt free to add a lot of cello on there, but I don't do that for every song. It just depends. Another thing I wanted to bring up really quick, these tracks are completely raw. There may be a little bit of reverb I have on it or something, but it's totally unmixed, and you're going to hear the cellos way louder than in the final mix. This is just a work tape that I am recording over, which is typical. These tracks are also not tuned. Typically, I run everything that I submit to a producer through Melodyne, and I tune it personally. And there's a couple reasons for that. First of all, Melodyne is so invisible, like you can just do little nudges that you'll never be able to tell it's tuned, but it just locks in a little bit. And you've still got some like movement, and it's not perfectly on the dot for every note. So if a producer wants to make it go that way, they're welcome to. But with a lot of my projects, like you can see here, there's a lot of voicings on the cello parts, and that is hard to track if you didn't record it. And since I came up with all the parts myself, I find that it's really quick for me to go through and tune, and I can hear issues and just nudge it here or there. So I do that, but all of these that you're hearing are not tuned today. So there will be some intonation issues, but I kind of wanted to give you a sense of what it'd be like if you got tracks from me as a producer. So anyway, first verse, pretty simple layout. Once we get into the chorus, we get a little bit more rhythmic action going.
This is where I draw the line. She's a devil in disguise. Yeah. I guess I'd better close my eyes before I meet him.
So yeah, your normal thing you've got going on there. So kind of starting out with the rhythmic stuff, we've got basically I am following the bass line with this cello here. And then we have a cello solo part that enters here. So for example, what I was talking about earlier, I do not double track those because it allows it to stick out a little bit more. You can keep that panned straight up or whatever you want to do. But that's an example of where not every track is double tracked. That way it kind of sticks out and has a theme. So here we've got verse 3 going on. So what you've got going on here is a little fill type of thing, and it's kind of hard to make cellos stand out because they're very in the mid-range. So what I approached here is like a sort of building. I actually add tracks throughout. And then it thins back out. And then here we've got just in octaves. You could run an octaver on it, but I prefer, again, to just record it like it's actually in a section. So you've got up high on the cello and up down low. You could use a violin if you're better at violin than me.
3 days, same as the one before. I say I'm finished, but my flesh wants more. I leave you without trust, or I leave us without love. And this is where I draw the line. I can't make this woman mine. No, she's a devil in disguise.
So yeah, same thing here. Because I wanted a little more rhythmic movement going on, I added that duh, duh. Yeah, so you've got it in octaves there. That way it sticks out a little bit more. Just add something interesting. It's basically following the bass, but, you know, a texture.
In disguise, yeah. I guess I better close my eyes before.
So we've got an extended solo section here. You'll hear the section basically getting more and more active rhythmically as you go through.
Before I'm eating.
Yeah, so basically what we've got going on, again, is you've got, starting out, you can just see from the transients even, you got stabs, right? And then you've got, like, a little bit more stabs, and then you've got something that kind of continues through, and then at the very end builds up to that drop. So, totally normal stuff there. The way I approach solos in a song like this, I don't notate anything out. Basically, the only time I notate things out is if I'm working with other players, and so I have something specific in mind. I prefer to get my ideas down to where I can hear them and kind of work from there rather than notating it. It's just an extra step, and when you're doing session stuff, you've got to be efficient. So the way I would do this, play around with some ideas, you know, for the whole solo, get an idea of the dynamics, but then I start going chunk by chunk, and some of these you'll notice are pretty small chunks, like just a measure or two. And then some of this stuff at the end to really tighten it up, I have like 1,000 different little comps there that's going on. You can see, like, sometimes I go up and down, but sometimes it's like I'm choosing out of what's best. Honestly, I was essentially composing and recording this together at the same time. So what I did is I sort of worked through this, found out the idea of what I wanted, and then I had to relearn it to be able to play it live, because in order to play this solo live, which is how I do it, I had to sort of practice it, but I didn't have time with recording this to practice it for 8 hours and then record it. I just had to go for it. And honestly, that's just how session stuff is. So yeah, no one on earth will be able to tell that that's comped. For something like that, I could practice it a bunch and get it in one go, but honestly, you'd have to go back to function. What is the most important aspect of what I'm recording here? And that is to create an effect for listeners, and that is to play a role in this song. So this song needed something in the mid-range to fill it out, to make it more full, and needed some interesting elements to catch people's ear. And this is my chance to show off, and so with that, I'm more interested in it being very accurate than it being a one-take sort of thing. You have to use all the tools that you have and leave your ego at the door, because I have gotten a lot of projects handed to me after they hired someone else to record on the project, and the session player maybe played what they wanted to play, rather than what the song needed most. So this is an example of, I just had to admit this is going to be cleaner if I comp it instead of trying to get it in one go, and then I had to relearn it to do it live, and I stand by that decision a little bit.
I can't make this woman mine. She's a devil in disguise. Yeah. I guess I better close my eyes.
My goal is that you can, as a producer, drop the tracks in, mix it a little, maybe throw on some like EQ based on what you want, but it should be pretty much good to go. And that's really important for me, because like when you get something, if it's hard to line up and you've got to go in and fix things, I don't like to do that for people. I like it to be like a nice little birthday present that they unwrap when they drop it in their DAW.